Friends on Sports 56. Here is your host, the voice of the Tigers, Wolo.
Look up on the wall. There on the wall. Under the bottle. Behind the door. There's a crack in the mirror. Somewhere there's a hole in the blade. I tell you they not to blame. Tell me do you think not to blame? They tell me you're never there.
Good Friday morning. Nice to have you aboard. It's starting to warm up a little bit. It's been warm at FedEx Forum. I can tell you that. Will FedEx Forum go 3 for 3 tonight? When this weekend is over, could we see FedEx Forum 5-0? In other words, the Grizzlies win 3, the Tigers win 2, and FedEx Forum looks indestructible? That could happen. The Tigers have won 5 in a row. I believe the Grizz have won 4 in a row, correct?
That's right.
That's pretty good. Both teams, and this rarely happens, has been pointed out several times earlier this year. Very rare. Both teams do well. That absolutely could occur tonight. The Tigers did escape. They led for only 13 minutes of the game against a Wichita State team where, if we're being honest, and we try to be, there's not one player on the Wichita State team that could start for this Memphis team.
No.
Not one. Now, you can make some arguments where you might find on other American Athletic Conference teams a better center, a better big, like UAB coming in. They got a better big than any of the Memphis bigs. But this team does not. Quincy Ballard is not better than Dangy. He's not even better than Cisse. By the way, let me just get this off my chest. I said it on the air during the broadcast. I've said it a couple of times to people behind the scenes. We know Moussa Cisse's hands are suspect. I'm going to take this a step further. This is kind of how I felt about, do you remember the giant that UCF had who played in the NBA with Boston for a little bit? Yeah. I think is tearing it up in China.
Sure is.
That is Taco Fall.
That's right.
Taco Fall couldn't see. Really. He would wear, like in warm-ups, these goggles that were, it was so thick. I think when he got to the NBA, he had some sort of procedure formed or something.
He did.
And his eyesight got better. I'm telling you, Memphis, please check Moussa Cisse's eyesight. I think this is not just his hands. I think he doesn't see the ball quickly enough, and they go through his hands. That's rebounds, that's passes, that's where the rim is to miss as many as he does. I think there's an eyesight thing going on here. Please, check his eyes. And I mean that sincerely, not sarcastically. Anyway, it was a crazy game last night. So I'm not sure I've ever seen a first half like this. All right? So we counted it up, my producer, Danny O'Brien, and I. First half, 33 possessions, okay? 14 turnovers. That's almost half. 10 field goals. On those 10 field goals, only 2 assists. 2 assists, 14 turnovers? You know my positive ratio theory. Holy smokes. And yet you were only down by 4. That's just miraculous. That's because Wichita State's not very good. And then the revelation from Penny, where he told me he's got to change the way he's coaching this thing. He understands because he keeps saying, we're practicing it, we're doing this, we're doing that. We did a push-up drill, we did a sprint drill if you had too many turnovers. Now he says when he was playing, Coach Finch had a rule. The ball had to go through either Penny or David Vaughn. Makes sense. They won a lot of games. His new rule, you got to go through PJ or you got to go through Hunter. Makes sense to me. The one little thing here, both those guys turn the ball over. Now, Hunter has a positive ratio. Haggerty does not. Haggerty turns the ball over. Last night, he had 4 assists, but he had 5 turnovers. Hunter had 3. That's 8 turnovers. You can actually, if they're the ones that are going to be primarily holding the ball, you can live with 8 to 10. You could even live with 11 to 12. Do you know the last 2 years, which were better years for Penny's teams, because you got to keep in mind a lot of it is the style of play. He likes to play fast. When you do that, you are playing at a riskier pace. You're going to have more turnovers. But even in good years, 13 turnovers. You know that's like 270 in the NCAA. That's what you really have to expect. But he's to a point now, like last night, 14 and a half. You can't have that. Now, they had only 6 in the second half when they made their comeback. And I will give them this. They were tough-minded. You never kind of felt you were going to lose this game. I did not. I just kept waiting for the intensity to happen. And I'm not sure they played very intensely in the first half. I don't know if they're looking forward to UAB. I don't know if they just don't take as seriously some of these American teams. I really don't know the answer to that. But I do know that when it was stretch time, they played harder. I will also give Wichita State credit. They played really hard, too. In fact, they got more of the hustle plays than the University of Memphis.
Well, and that's what Penny said, is that all these teams are going to look at Memphis and say, we're going to out-hustle them, and that's how we beat them. And so you're seeing these teams try to go out there and out-hustle them.
That's 100%. That's exactly correct. Yeah. Now, I did see guys jumping on the floor in the second half, and I think they upped their intensity level. And look, they won by 8, and they played terrible. So I think that goes a long way. But I am happy that he is now copping to, I got to change the way I coach this, and he's going to. And we'll see if that works. They're going to be fired up for UAB. I don't foresee UAB getting most of the hustle plays on Sunday. We'll check it out. Remember this. The last time Andy Kennedy was in FedEx Forum, he got booted. He got tossed. He got ejected. He lost his mind. I pretty much guarantee he will not do that this time because he knows. He's already mentioned he's going to get it from the fans. And that'll be fun. That's what rivalries are about, and that's about as close to a rivalry now as the Tigers have in basketball, is this team, no blame on Andy Kennedy, because I don't think you can vote for yourself, but his team was voted ahead of Memphis, and then they went off and lost to Longwood. They lost to Vermont at home. So this team is capable of losing a lot of games, but they're 5-1 in the league, and they have played much better. They're getting the ball to Yaxel, and he's an NBA kind of a guy. He's a guy that Memphis wanted. Let's be honest. He was in the portal or was thinking about going into the portal. Penny was there. He wanted him. He was a good friend of David Jones. But he decided to stay. I think, I don't know, I'm guessing when I say this, part of their play, I watched a couple of early games, they wouldn't give the ball to Yaxel. Sometimes you wonder, you get all the money and they're not happy in the NIL deal? I don't know. But they're giving it to him now, and they are much better. And when Andy Kennedy was asked about those picks, he goes, well, that's all continuity. He had Yaxel coming back. He had this guard Vasquez, who I believe was second or third team All-American last year, AAC. And they had like 6 guys coming back. Memphis had 1 guy coming back. So I get it. But I don't know. I still think I hate to say this, but you wonder about the way the coaches still perceive Penny and how he got this gig and all that other good stuff. So, or I shouldn't say good stuff. Bad stuff. Breaking news this morning. Pete Carroll to Vegas as the head coach. And Greg Gaston made a great point. Boy, that division now. With the coaches in there, Andy Reid, multiple Super Bowls. Sean Payton, Super Bowl champion. Pete Carroll, Super Bowl champion. NCAA championship. Harbaugh, a Super Bowl runner-up and an NCAA championship. Wow. I would have to guess Tom Brady, we know Tom Brady had input. He's a Vegas owner, right? Mm-hmm. How many times did he face Pete Carroll teams? I know they got him in the Super Bowl when he made the very poor choice instead of giving it to the beast Marshawn to pass the ball, which got picked to end the Super Bowl that they should have won Seattle, that gave Tom Brady the W. But, he must have said, when I had to face a Pete Carroll team was tough. First of all, their offense was so innovative or whatever, and then on defense, they made it hard on me. I mean, there's something he saw in 72-year-old Pete Carroll that he said, let's give this guy a shot. And so he's in. That is pretty cool. Oh, and I've got to debunk all of this baloney that the Kansas City Chiefs get all the calls. So I saw this graphic. I will give my son, Jacob Woloshin, credit for sending it to me. This is a great graphic. It is the football teams where the opponents are the least penalized. Okay? In other words, if you're the least penalized, the opposition got 5 penalties called in a game, whereas the team with the most penalties called on their opponents would be 10. All right? So those are the ones that would be getting the benefit of the doubt because they're getting all the calls in their favor. So here's how it is. The team that had the least amount of opponent penalties, in other words, they were the ones that got the raw end of the deal because they never got calls their way. That's the Chicago Bears. In this past season, there were only 263 opponent penalties. The Kansas City Chiefs, that everybody says gets all the breaks, they were third, 278. That's only 15 more than the Bears. So they were the ones that really got the raw end of the deal. Kansas City, the third most. The Vikings were the ones that really benefited the most. Their opponents, 363 penalties. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys. Even with all those calls, they couldn't win. 334. So don't give me this Kansas City stuff because they were third in that department. All right. On Fridays, we make picks. Last week, we were darn good, Brian Dacus. You were 4-2. I was 5-1. Thank you, Ohio State. That was the only one we differed in. So we make 6 picks, and I'm realizing now as we do this, you get for college football, for the NFL, you get pre-advanced lines. For the NBA and for the NCAA hoops, you only get them the day before the game or that night before the game. So we are limited in our 6. I've taken 2 NFL. 2 NBA, 1 NCAA, and 1 tennis. And by the way, I should point this out before we make our picks. Father Time has seemingly won again. Don't know if you watched it, but you can make the argument Novak Djokovic is the greatest tennis player ever. He's trying to break all the records of everybody, modern, old, winning 25 Grand Slams. He gets into the semis, and he's taking on a really good player in Alexander Zverev. They have an 82-minute first set. Now, in Joker's win over Alcaraz, he had a slight muscle tear. I want to say I'm pretty sure it is to his left leg. And so he goes to a tiebreak. They're in the 82nd minute. He actually blows an easy shot at the net to lose the first set, 7-5 in the tiebreak. Everybody thinks, wow, this is going to be a 4-hour marathon. It's going to be classic. Because the tennis, I thought, was a pretty good level. But Djokovic is limping, and instead of going for the cross changeover, he goes to the net and he shakes Zverev's hand. He retires. This is the second year in a row he's retired in the majors. He was playing Rudd in the quarters in Paris a year ago, and he had to retire. it just goes to show you, and he said it himself, he is becoming more and more oft injured. He does not know how long it will take for him to recover from this muscle tear. And so he's supposed to play in a tournament that I think he helped sponsor in Europe 2 or 3 weeks from now. He's not sure if he's going to be able to play in that. Certainly he's going to gear up everything to play in majors. But that's the second major where he could have won the 25th Grand Slam event that he's had to retire from. You get old and you have injuries or you can't recover quick enough. I'm afraid Novak Djokovic may be getting to that point. In fact, he's 37. And I remember we used to say in tennis, because so much is predicated, this is a little bit before they really got into unbelievable shape and had all the sports and nutrition knowledge they have now, sports medicine, nutrition. But when you were a tennis player, 27 was absolutely your prime. When you got to 30 and you lost that little half step, you were not going to be a great player anymore. This is a dude winning majors at 37, okay? So he's incredible. He has gone way past the old time frame. But I don't know if he isn't up against it now. We'll have to wait and see on all of that. All right, let's make our picks. So, by the way, 5-1, 4-2. I am 35-20 on the year, or at least when you and I have gone head-to-head. And you are now 26-29. So you are 9 picks, 9 games behind me in this contest. We're going to go all the way through until golf anyway. And then golf will start a whole new season, Brian Takis. So are you ready?
Let's do it.
You had the better week by going first. You still lost to me, but you had at least over 500 to get yourself to within 3 games of 500 now at 26-29. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Why not?
Okay.
Why not? So first game?
First game, Washington is at Philadelphia. The Eagles are 6-point favorites.
Yeah, I'll take Philly here. You know, ride that run game, and I say it every week, and it's gotten me every single week. Some point that luck's going to run out for the Commanders, and I think it's this weekend.
I don't think it's just luck. I just think, and I just heard Brandon Lang talking with the guys. If you gain over, what do you say, 130 yards or 160 yards, something like that. If you can gain that on the ground, since 1988, the record of you winning is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like it was, I can't remember the percentage, but it was major. Saquon Barkley, buddy, he had 205 himself.
Incredible.
Now, that was in the freezing cold, but you know what? It's still going to be cold in Philly this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the funny thing is people were posting his highlights from last game, and you had one highlight at the beginning of the game where green grass, everything was was beautiful outside, and then the next highlight is just the field is covered with snow. Yeah. So he's incredible.
I just think he's going to run, and I'm in agreement with you. So I will take Philly. Then the other NFL game is Buffalo. The Bills at Kansas City, another rematch. Allen versus Mahomes. Mahomes always seems to win these games. Your pick.
I'm going to go with Kansas City in this one. I'm going to be rooting for the Bills. I like Josh Allen. I hope he's able to get past and get to that Super Bowl. But when you're talking about dynasties, Kansas City's right there, and it's really hard to beat him, especially in the playoffs. Travis Kelce, after all the heat he got kind of during the regular season about not getting targets, not having a lot of grabs, and now he's taken off, and he's looked really good throughout the playoffs. So give me Kansas City.
Not so fast, my friend.
Okay.
Finally.
We're
going to have a difference here. I want Kansas City to win, so I won't feel bad if I lose this. I love the Mahomes and Kelce story. Josh Allen is due. He's just due. He's got a good team. He's played so many of these times in Kansas City in Arrowhead Stadium. I just think they're due. And you're getting 2 points. So I'm going to take a run at this. And if I lose, I'm okay with it. But I will take Buffalo in this game. NBA tonight.
Dave, before we go to the NBA, I just want to ask you, do you know what Saquon Barkley's rushing yardage is posted at for his player prop? Over, under what number do you think?
I'll say it's over 101.
127
Oh,
and
my
a half.
God, that's too much. But for them to put that prop that high makes you say Philly's going to win this game.
Oh, yeah. That's incredible.
Okay. New Orleans, the Pelicans in town to take on the Grizz. This is a big number now. This is 11 and a half. You who are wearing a Grizz cap
That's
today.
right. I'm rocking it. We don't know now. Ja is on the injury report as questionable for tonight.
But he's every game, and he ends
That's
up playing.
true. He is questionable for a lot of games. Zion is listed as questionable tonight, but you look, New Orleans has been really good the last 10 games covering spreads. Now, a lot of that has to do with Zion being back in the fold. If he doesn't play, that certainly changes things. The Grizzlies have been in a lot of close games lately, even in that game against Charlotte when they were blowing the doors off Charlotte first, and Charlotte's able to come back and cover late. I'm going to go with New Orleans to cover the spread, but the Grizzlies win the game.
I'm with you all the way. I hope they both play, and I still think that'll be the case. If they both don't play, the Grizzlies do have a better chance of getting to that 11 and a half. But, Taylor Jenkins only wants to win.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't care about 11 and a half. To me, anytime you get to double digits in an NBA game, and I know there are blowouts where teams just give up, but I don't think that'll happen tonight. I'm going to go with New Orleans as well, unfortunately. So we agree on that one. Then Cleveland, minus 10.5, is at Philadelphia. That team seems to be floundering.
Yeah, they've been really, really bad, especially as of late. On a little bit of a losing streak. Cleveland hadn't been playing their best ball. Certainly earlier in the season, they were dominating everybody. It's been a lot closer. They're coming off a loss against earlier this week against the Rockets. But I do think this is a spot where Cleveland covers. 76ers have not been able to cover spreads lately, so give me Cleveland.
You and I agree on that one, so we're not different. That's not good for you, though. I hate to tell you.
No, it's not.
Then one NCAA game tonight that is of interest. It's a top 25 matchup between Michigan and Purdue. It is in Purdue. Or Lafayette, Indiana, actually, to be exact.
Yeah, give me the home team. I think the place is going to be jumping. I'll take Purdue.
It's 4.5 points. That's all it is. And I think Purdue is better. And I can't root for Dusty May. So I'm with you all the way. Give me Purdue as well. And then finally, this is easy, straight up. The number one seed at the Australian is Sinner. He's up against Zverev. I'm going to say Yannick Sinner. Oh, I just said
wow,
it.
you just said it.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
I blew that, but I'm going Sinner all the way. He's going to win another major. He's the best player right now. I thought it would be Alcaraz, but it's Sinner.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Sinner, too. I mean, this is more up your alley, certainly, than mine. I did not know that. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. The other fella that he's playing won off of
Alexander Zverev. It's very easy.
Very easy. I'll just let you continue to say it. But no, I mean, I did not know he won because his opponent dropped out. So that makes me believe even more in Sinner. So I guess give me the Sinster.
Right. The Sinner is we only differ on the one.
How about that? Kansas City and Buffalo.
Kansas City and Buffalo. You're never going to catch me, unfortunately for you. That is the picks. We do it every Friday. The Pick 6 is brought to you by Southern Security. That's your hometown credit union. I love talking about them because I think they're so good. I mean, it's like family there. They've won the best for 6 consecutive years, the best credit union in the Mid-South, and it's so easy to join. All you have to go is to southernsecurity.org, or you can actually talk to a human being at 452-7900. You can refinance your auto loan with Southern Security, have no payment for 60 days. Come on, you can't beat that. Southern Security will finance up to 115% of the current value of your vehicle for up to 72 months. What a deal. Southern Security, your home team credit union. They are proud supporters of the Tigers Athletic Department and 901 Women, and they are federally insured by NCUA. Southern Security, they are your family. We take the break. When we come back, we head to Chicago. Our NBA agent from Priority Sports is Andy Schiffman, and he's right around the corner.
To your lunch break. Join Johnny Radio for Sports 56 Happy Hour from 11 to 1 every weekday on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM. Fall is football at the Owner's Box Sports Bar and Grill in Lakeland, Town Square. Monday through Friday, it's happy hour for 3 cents. $1 off all draft meals, $5 off meal drinks, $4.50 for house wine, mozzarella sticks, queso, corn dogs, and Friday night ice cream, 7 closing, dining, and mozzarella Wednesday, 5
Jason's Deli, when you're dining in or picking up curbside, you can expect wholesome food and no surprises, just delicious sandwiches, crisp salads, and quick quality meals made with the freshest ingredients and no artificial trans fats, MSG, high fructose corn syrup, or artificial colors and dyes. Around here, a lot of thought goes into what we put into our food and what we take out of it, because you're not just taking a bite, you're getting a taste of who we are. New items are constantly being created to expand our menu for all tastes and special diets with vegan and gluten-free options available. Convenience and on-time delivery you can count on. It's just a click away at jasonsdeli.com, so whether you need to feed 5 people or 5,000, the team at Jason's Deli, they have the credentials and the commitment to keep you satisfied. Freshness is nearby at Jason's Deli with locations at Ridgeway in the Park Place Center, Poplar and Highland, Germantown Road in Cordova, and on Goodman Road in Olive Branch. Jason's Deli. It's wholesome food and no surprises.
Hi, this is Troy Five-Ash, owner of Five-Ash Roofing. I have been told that my ads are all business and I should share some of my personality. Okay, I love tongue twisters, like the one about the terrific tasting toast by Taste Tester Toaster, or Big Black Bugs, Bleed Blue Blood, and of course Sally and her seashells. Or of course the ever-present I'm a mother pheasant plucker, I pluck mother pheasants. Okay, enough of that. If you want an honest, fair, reasonable roofing, siding, or gutter estimate, call Five-Ash Roofing at 367-0050. That's exactly what you'll get. No empty promises, no high-pressure sales tactics, and no fast-talking salesman trying to convince you that today and only today is the best day for you to get a new roof. For the record, the best day to get a new roof is when you're ready for one. Five-Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five-Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
You know, I think people forget there's a Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
And that's on us.
Well, you...
What does that mean?
Well, you're the spokesperson for Central Barbecue. It's your responsibility to remind people there's a Central Barbecue in South Haven.
It's very convenient that I'm the spokesperson when there's responsibility to be taken.
Just mention the Central Barbecue location in South Haven.
I got a lot to remember. There's a location on Butler downtown. There's a location on Summer, on Poplar.
And Getwell Road in South Haven. How hard is that?
I've heard you call yourself a spokesperson for Central Barbecue.
No, it was just to pick up chicks.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshyn.
All we hear is Radio Gaga.
We're sitting in the Family Leisure Studio. Don't forget that floor model sale where all 2024 inventory at Family Leisure's got to go because they're making room for the 25s. And I'm talking hot tubs, $3,000 off. I'm talking pool tables, arcades, ping pong, air hockey, foosball. If it's a floor model, 20 to 60% off. How about theater seating up to 75% off? Just get to I-40 and Wooden Road. Tell them we sent you, and you want to cash in on the floor model sale. To Chicago we go. Our agent, Andy Schiffman, who could not be with us last week because he was rushed away to an emergency meeting somewhere in Europe. How'd it go?
Top secret stuff. Look, it was beneficial. It was a quick trip over to Spain. A top team over there wanted to sign one of my players who was recently released from his NBA team, and the player insisted I go with him to help him feel comfortable. And luckily, it worked because he's going to go over there and sign a contract to play for the top team in Spain. So it was a productive trip, I'd say that. Just very busy.
Andy, I must say that is the greatest falsehood you have ever told me, because the truth is really this. Andy Schiffman was there on behalf of Commissioner Adam Silver. He's laying the groundwork for this new Europe NBA that's coming. According to Silver, the European League, which is considered, I think, at the highest level, the number 2 league in the world, he thinks it's underperforming. They may want to come and hijack. The NBA is going to take over Europe, and you're the man leading the charge. Is there any truth to that?
Well, that's an indictment on the options out there. I think it's just like the presidential election we just went through last fall, right? Like, this is the best candidate that we could get. This is who they solicited to serve this purpose. So I wish that was the case. I think it would be exciting. But look, EuroLeague, and this is one of those teams that I'm mentioning, Real Madrid and EuroLeague, top 18 teams outside the NBA, for sure, hands down. You see a lot of former NBA players going to play in EuroLeague every year. We have many, Jabari Parker, Shane Larkin. There's other players that we don't represent. Nico Mirotic, if you remember him, Mario Hezonja, Facundo Campazzo, who happens to play for Real Madrid. So the level of competition among the top teams, the top 2 or 3 players for those EuroLeague teams are right on par with second half of the roster NBA players. I'm not going to sit there and say they would compete in an NBA game, but you have a lot of high-level talent among these EuroLeague teams. And so it is attractive for players that are hanging on by a thread in the NBA, can't get a contract in the NBA, versus the only other option, really, if you want to keep playing, is go to the G League. And if you're a veteran in the NBA and you bounced around for a number of years, the last thing you want to do when you're 28, 29, 30 years old is go down to the G League, where it's all helter-skelter, horrible brand of basketball. You have younger players being sent down on two-way contracts to, quote-unquote, be developed there, and they take away your shots and your minutes. It's just, I don't like it. We have some guys in there that are along the ilk of what I'm talking about that opt to go stay home and play in the G League versus going over to Europe. But I think moving forward, EuroLeague and that brand of basketball is only going to be more attractive. Look, we've talked about it before. The NBA having these aspirations of trying to have games over in Europe, having an NBA team based in Europe, I think it's ambitious. I think it's very admirable, the idea. Logistically, I don't know how they make that work.
To me, it's interesting because as Adam Silver, and when he comes out public like this, it says to me he's got a plan and he's really going to try to do this. They're going to try to have an NBA Europe. The same way the NFL did that in Europe with football, and it did not work out. I'm not saying that will be the case here. But he pointed out, we run the NBA, we run the WNBA, we run the G League, we run this gaming league, that we know how to run leagues, and that Europe hasn't done it right, that they are leaving money on the table. We were going to take that money. I want to know how they take over Europe. Do they just wait for those contracts of other teams to expire and go after the players? How would you do that?
You know, everything you just talked about is right, but keep in mind, all those entities and leagues you just listed out, they're based in North America. So obviously, with the New York being headquartered in the U.S., in New York, it's significantly easier. Travel is the first priority here among leagues. That's the easiest to do, and you're all landlocked within, North America, within a 3-hour flight, 4-hour flight of one another. Logistically, with the NBA schedule, if they're talking about potentially trying to incorporate some of these top-level teams together where you may be playing games both in the NBA and overseas, I think that's very difficult. Now, if they are talking about just basically taking over EuroLeague, where the teams aren't changing, but the controlling entity now is the NBA versus FIBA, I just don't see that happening. FIBA's not going to relinquish control of European basketball, of high-level EuroLeague leagues over there. I don't think that it is, quote-unquote, in shambles or is in much disarray compared to what Adam Silver says. I just don't. Quite honestly, it's extremely popular, and a lot of that is because some of these top-level teams, Barcelona, Real Madrid, to name a couple, they are controlled by the football clubs there in that country. So when I was over in Madrid last week, Dave, I saw the layout and the campus where the basketball team practices and stays. And it's a smaller portion of a whole area controlled by the soccer club, which is just immaculate. It is unlike anything I've ever seen before. And so when you've got these top-level Premier League, I'm not really a big soccer guy, but those clubs are feeding the basketball team and keeping that alive, you have an endless supply of cash and resources being poured into these basketball clubs. So I am not worried about EuroLeague and European basketball at that level.
Interesting. All right, we'll see how all of that plays out. In the meantime, I've always been under the assumption upper-level European League is the second-best league in the world. China is third. Now I'm told, however, that the NBL in Australia, where Kendrick Davis, by the way, is eating it up and is making over $1 million a year, that has become the number 3 league in the world over China. You're the expert because you got players everywhere. You tell me.
Well, first off, I think we have to define European basketball, right?
Right.
I think the absolute top league outside the NBA is the Euro League, which consists of really the top 18 teams all throughout Europe. So you take that aside, then you have a league like Spain, which houses 5 or 6 of those top-level teams, but also over a dozen other domestic Spanish teams, which is a very strong league. Turkey is another one. China, at this point, China's really fallen off. It's very unorganized. For my side of this industry, Dave, when you're representing a player and you're contemplating sending a player to China versus somewhere in Europe, we always tell the players, look, China is a bit of a disaster in terms of the organization and the competition and the structure of the league. You go to China because it's a shorter season and it's a quote-unquote money grab. That's what we always say. You're going there for the money. You're not going there because it's going to help you get back to the NBA. So for purposes of our conversation, when you talk about what is the top league, I'm taking that to really mean competition, right? Like both money for sure, but level of competition, well-respected competition. China's pretty far down the list for me in that regard, because typically you have a lot of guys that kind of fall out of the NBA, maybe don't have a whole lot of value in Europe, and they're just going to go make a lot of money in China. Primarily big men or point guards. That's what they really look for in America. Mm-hmm. Now, Australia and the NBL, 10 teams over there. It is a growing competitive league. The money is not what you may get in China and some other top-level teams in Europe, but they treat players great. Just like China, it's also a shorter season. It's about a 7-month season compared to a 10-month season in Europe. And it's a phenomenal lifestyle. It's a very easy transition for American players because obviously everything is a bit westernized. Everyone speaks English. Great quality of life. When you are grinding it out in the winter months here in the NBA, well, over in Australia, it's summer. I have many players over there right now. They absolutely love it. I have a player, Dylan Windler, who was in the NBA for 5 years, drafted first round by Cleveland, couldn't stick due to a number of injuries he's had, and he's over in Perth, Australia, one of the top teams right there in 4th place. He's loving life. He sends me pictures every day when I'm getting to work in negative 10-degree weather here in Chicago, where he's right on the beach and it's 75, 80 degrees, and he's watching the sunrise. It's unbelievable. Again, the money is not necessarily quite on par with EuroLeague or China in some cases, but the level of competition has risen. Obviously, you've seen a lot of young Australian-born players kind of come up through the ranks in the NBL that transition over to the NBA. And every season, a lot more NBA scouts and GMs are making the trip over to Australia to scout for the draft and for veteran players like Dylan to eventually come back to the NBA. I can tell you right now, they're not doing that in China.
Huh. Kendrick Davis is making pretty good money there too, isn't he?
Yep. And he's probably a good example of a player that probably couldn't make that level of money in Europe. I think a player of his profile as a guard and a scoring guard could go make good money in China, but it's non-guaranteed in China. And like I said, it's very chaotic there. So he's got really good structure over there in Australia.
I don't think you have our guy, Naquan Tomlin, but last night in the G League for Cleveland, he had, listen to this, 21 points, 20 rebounds, 62% field goal in a 112-107 win over, I don't even know who they played, somebody in the G League.
Delaware,
thank
good
you.
team.
Yeah.
Delaware's usually always good.
Philadelphia's G League team. He had 34 points last week, I believe.
That Cleveland-Delaware rivalry, that's big.
Yeah. Those 8 fans in the stands are really going at it.
So you think our guy's got a chance, because he's not on the two-way, so he's not making any money in the G League. Has he got a chance to make the NBA? I love that kid. I really do.
Look, it's always tough because those players, those guys are a dime a dozen, and so his best chance is to try and get a 10-day where you've got a team that's out of the playoff picture in the NBA come post-February 6th trade deadline. And at that point, you've got a team like a Charlotte, like a Toronto, like a Washington, even if it's potentially even Chicago here, a team that is just basically kind of has their sights set in a rebuild mode where they're evaluating young talent. And so at that point, yeah, I think he does have a chance if he continues to score at the pace he's scoring and play really well, to at the very least be one of these young players that gets a 10-day contract just to be evaluated. Now, again, a lot of players think, okay, I've got to call if I got a 10-day, I've made it. Odds are a player like him is going to potentially get a 10-day, maybe get another one with the same team, because the most you can sign with one team is 2 10-days, and then just kind of be spit right back out into the G League. It's just a big revolving door at the end of the season. And so, look, it's great to go make a little extra cash, to have the ability to go play in a few NBA games. Is it really going to lead to anything long-term? Probably not. That's extremely difficult to do. So I think that's probably the most likely course for him.
All right, last thing, very quick. We got about a minute and a half. The Grizzlies, with the deadline approaching, G.G. Jackson's come back, Vince Williams are waiting in the wings. Will they make a move in your mind at the deadline?
If I'm Zach Clement, I'm not being overly aggressive. You're leading the league in points per game right now. You're in the top 5 to 7 in all the other major statistical categories. You're coming off a nice little 4-game win streak here. You're beating top teams. I really would be hesitant to change the chemistry and the culture right now unless you feel like you can upgrade at any positions. I wouldn't really trade away some veteran guys and try and acquire draft picks unless you feel like you can improve at any specific position. I would stand pat.
I'm with you. I would too, and I'd stay away from Jimmy Butler. That is for sure. I'll be interested to see if he ends up in Phoenix. That's the discussion for next week. As always, we appreciate you, and have a great week, my friend.
You too. Thanks, Dave.
That's our agent in Chicago. That is Andy Schiffman. He's brought to you by Sheldon. They're both so good at what they do. Sheldon Rosengarten, I love bragging about him because he's always selling houses, even if it's Thanksgiving or New Year's. He finds a way. He actually did it over Thanksgiving, 4 time zones away. He was with me in Maui. He was selling houses. He can do it on a golf course. The guy's amazing. 24/7, 365. It always comes down to that highly successful strategic marketing program. Nobody's got it like he does. That's the truth. That's why he sells so often. And he'll tell you, talk to 2 or 3 real estate agents. Just make sure he's one of the brokers you talk to, because then you'll learn about the strategy and you will absolutely sell your home. 483-0546. That's Sheldon's cell phone number. Or you can go to MemphisRelocate.com. 483-0546, MemphisRelocate.com. Sell your house. Get it done with Sheldon. Back in a minute, we go to New Orleans and to Tulsa. The Roundtable, the American style. That comes your way next.
Broadcasting from the Family Leisure Studio, we are Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
You get the best of Memphis for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack. Choose from house pastrami, corned beef, smoked turkey, roast beef, roast pork, beef brisket, and full shoulders, all made in-house. Elwood's fresh baked bread is delivered daily only in our bakery in Cordova, and all Elwood's cakes and sweet treats come from Frost Bakery. Open daily for lunch and dinner at Elwood Shack on Summer in the Lowe's parking lot. And the newest Elwood's at 4040 Park across from the Urban. Get the best of Memphis or anywhere else at Elwood Shack.
Mid-South, it's time for a new year and a new ride from Gossett Mitsubishi on the Pike. Get 2024 Mitsubishi Mirage, a perfect compact hatchback for commutes, getaways, and just about everything else for $299 a month. Or buy Mirage for $18,410, gets 43 MPG highway. Or take your pick from 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid PHEV, named 2025 Family Green Car of the Year for 3 straight years. Or 2024 Mitsubishi Outlander, now just $399 a month. Plus, get peace of mind with Mitsubishi's 10-year, 100,000-mile powertrain limited warranty. Get to Gossett Mitsubishi today to start your year off right. 1870 Covington Pike and 24/7 at MemphisMitsubishi.com.
If you want it, we got it at Gossett Motor Cars.
Military rebate Mirage RHO 15630, MSRP 18410, PHEV RZO 66681, MSRP 42750, Outlander RZO 88655, MSRP 32770. Includes all rebates and incentives. PF 695 excludes tax filing and license with approved credit. See dealer for complete details. Offer valid to end of the month. Dealer stock only.
Take your basketball skills to the next level at Shoot 360 Memphis. Shoot 360 is a revolutionary basketball training facility that combines cutting-edge technology with gamification and provides instant objective feedback, hands-on, one-on-one expert coaching. And now, introducing Shoot 360 for you, a newly renovated 50,000 square foot facility with 2 NBA regulation-size courts, 3 high school-size courts, and 4 shooting days with Shoot 360 technology. Memberships are now on a monthly basis. And yes, you can become a member at both locations. Whether you're an aspiring young talent, NBA player, or looking
Welcome in. Final segment of the week. It's called the Roundtable, American style. We get together with our friends, former fellow broadcasters in the league. That would be Corey Glore down in New Orleans, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. And then there is Bruce Howard, voice of the Golden Hurricane in Tulsa. Good morning, gentlemen. College football playoff rankings down 12%, even with the brand names, Notre Dame and Ohio State. That was surprising to me. So I ask you, too many games, too long a season, NIL fatigue. Corey Glore, I start with you. Why do you think college football playoffs ratings were down? It's the third lowest college football championship game, even with those brand names, since they started in 2015. Good morning.
Good morning. First of all, do you know something I don't? Former broadcaster.
No, I hope we're all still here next year, my friends.
I'm curious about it, too. I don't know how much of it has to do with kind of the things you rattled off and more that first weekend lined up with NFL playing on Saturdays. When they moved in mid-December, and those games were the lowest rated of any of the bunch in the college football playoff, the ones that matched up with the NFL. You had a game on New Year's Eve night, which by this point, the CFP should know that this never worked.
Yeah.
And it didn't work again this year. And then I do think the title game is too late in the day and too late in the calendar, being on January 20th. By that point, people have kind of moved on from the college football season and moved on to other things. You're talking about a month and a half after the actual regular season ended. And so I think a lot of things kind of lined up there that were kind of out of the CFP's control, but also ones that they can very much command in terms of when they actually schedule these games. That all kind of led to a little bit of a downswing in my mind.
Bruce?
Yeah, and those are good points by Corey. I think another point is who's the most passionate fan base in all of college football. It's the SEC. So there wasn't an SEC team in there, and I think that probably had an impact a little bit, on the ratings as well. I just think that nothing against the Big Ten and nothing against Notre Dame, but there are what is it about the SEC that drives everything? It's football, So I think that had an impact as well.
Well, you did have a Big Ten team in there, which I think you can make an argument for. That fan base is as passionate, although look what Tennessee did to Ohio State in their own stadium. Got about 30% of those tickets for that game. I find it interesting. Notre Dame, too. I mean, come on. You don't get more of a national audience for Notre Dame. So, I don't know. Good points, but I'm not sure. It does make me wonder. We've heard they're going to go to 14 for sure, or I think they're going to end up going to 16. But the fact that the interest has waned, you're not really going to make the season any longer because you're just going to take away buys. It would still be the same number of weeks. But I wonder if there would be discussion to go to 8, which would kill the group of 5. But would you go down to 8 instead of staying at 12 or expanding the field? I'll start with you, Bruce.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that 1 through 4 got knocked out after their buys, right? So you wonder if maybe they need to be playing. So if that's the case, then you expand it to 16. You take it down to 8, and then you've got an even situation where everybody has to play the equal number of games. So, I obviously being from the group of 5, if you will, you'd rather see it go to 16 and see if an Army can get in. Would Army have gotten in this year? At 16, who knows? Or Tulane or whoever. And so I think it's for us. Obviously, it's a better thing if they go to 16.
Corey, are they gonna continue the path to expansion, or will they go? We better rethink this.
Well, I think they're gonna course correct about how things are seeded and the
definitely.
top 4 seeds not being conference champions. I want them to realize that second round of games being bowl games hampers a lot for the actual fan bases, and those top 4 seeds also don't get home games in the playoff, and that doesn't make a ton of sense. And then I think it lines up with how all 4 of those teams lost in their first game. And so I like the idea at 12. I like it going to 16, and I think what this would show, we'll see, common sense has not ever really prevailed in the last 15 years in college football, is that the name brands didn't really matter this year. Again, people didn't really tune in as much as in years past. And so the talk about carving out spots for the SEC and the Big Ten, making sure they're guaranteed spots, that didn't matter this year because you had these big brand names at the top and making their way to the semifinals and the championship game, and people still found reasons to not watch the game. The other thing we didn't mention is that the championship game lined up with Inauguration Day, and that dominates a lot of the news cycle as well. And so the schedule, I think, is the biggest thing that needs to be honed in on. That would clean up a lot of this.
Well, I don't like the 4-4-2-2, and then the 1 to the group 5. I like that part of it, but guaranteed spots 4 for both of the bigger leagues just does not sit well with me. I guarantee you they will change the way it's seeded. Just because you're a champion shouldn't give you the automatic bye or a 1 through 4 seed. That backfired on them this year. I'm sure they will change all of that. All right, let's move to a different topic. It's hoops, and it's where the American Athletic Conference tournament should move. This is the last year in Dickies. It's, in terms of attendance, because Dickies is a great arena, it has been a nightmare. They got a great deal because they were first opening up Dickies. The conference had just moved their offices to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so they got a sweetheart of a deal. That's ending. They're going to play the last tournament in that building this year. Where should the tournament move? I'll start with Corey.
I think you're sitting there, Dave. I mean, think about the past of the American, the one tournament that had a lot of folks really turn out for it. I guess not including when UConn was in the league, because people did come out there to Hartford when I was up there. But the Memphis fan base will come out for these games even when Memphis isn't involved. And so I think that's the obvious one, is hosting inside FedEx. I don't think New Orleans is that bad of an idea, because you think about the league, and this is not just a basketball thing, it's kind of sport-wide, that the fan bases in this league, they kind of need destinations to lure them to where they want to go, and say their team gets knocked out right away, well, someplace where they can spend a few days if they were there for a week. And I don't I don't hate the idea of maybe it being down here in New Orleans and kicking the Pelicans out of their arena for a couple of games. But, I think the one thing where maybe it can stay in Texas is if North Texas does have the type of year and the type of program that they're kind of trending towards right now, that fan base will come to those games if they continue this type of winning ways this year. But I think Memphis is the obvious choice for where this needs to go.
Bruce?
Yeah, I don't disagree with Corey. Memphis obviously would be a great place to have it again, although it gives a really good Tigers team and an added advantage.
Definite advantage, no question.
So how about Las Vegas? What do you think? That's a destination place. What do you think? I mean, and I don't mind New Orleans either. But when even when SMU was in the league, they didn't draw that well. And again, it's maybe dependent upon how good your team is, in reference to North Texas and that kind of thing. But, that stuff is ephemeral at best because you never know how a team's going to turn out. Let's look at, what's happened this year in the league. Certain teams were ranked very highly at the beginning and haven't performed that well. And even a team like UAB, now they're starting to play really well. But point being, I think good teams come and go, especially with today's atmosphere.
My sense is you got to look at where people will come. And the two best draws in the league for attendance for their teams are Memphis and Wichita. And, Wichita doesn't have a very good team this year. So that hurts the league. But I think Wichita would be a place where at least when that team plays or the session has two games, you would get people in the stands. Memphis, obviously, it's a great home course advantage. They would come. You've got Beale Street as an entertainment district. I think you got to look at that. If the Green Wave had a good team and people were coming out, that would be a perfect place because you've got the quarter. It's New Orleans, for goodness sake. So people would love that. I'm going to throw out a crazy one for you. If they were good, and already I talked to a league official who said that arena does not have suites, and they want suites for their sponsors. But I like the setup at Charlotte. The two major hotels are right on entertainment districts, and they are literally a mile away from the arena. The arena is the right size at 9,000, but Charlotte's not playing well, so there's nobody coming. So I think it's still a dilemma, but this is the last year, and they're going to have to figure it out soon where they're going to have the tournament next year. So I'm still not 100% certain. Anybody, Corey, Bruce, anybody like Charlotte?
I like Charlotte, yeah.
Yeah, I like it too. I think that if it had to go there, then you'd have to go to the Hornets Arena, and then you start running into what the ACC might be doing because they occasionally dive in there too. And so that's the one thing about Charlotte, where you'd have to leave Halton Arena in order to do that.
I like Halton Arena, though. It's actually...
I do too, yeah. It's great.
Pretty darn good little spot. And you know what? Tulsa. We had a good final CUSA tournament in Tulsa. You remember that? It was downtown BOK Center. Is that where it was, Bruce?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's, and again, I'm sitting here on this show and I'm not even tooting my own horn. But yeah, Tulsa, especially if Tulsa is good. And again, it depends on how well your team is doing.
I know it.
At a certain point. But the BOK Center is a perfect place in Tulsa to have that tournament. It's probably too large, honestly. It's about 18,000. So, but I think Memphis would travel, Wichita State would travel,
definitely.
Obviously, Tulsa would travel.
Agree.
North Texas would travel if they were good. So, I mean, it's not a bad central location.
No, but Tulsa's got to win. That's the whole thing.
Yes.
Because I've seen 10,000 in that arena when you guys are playing well. Unfortunately, I haven't seen that in a couple of years. Hopefully, that gets turned around. Corey Glore, Bruce Howard, fellow broadcasters, I appreciate your participation today, and we will talk with you guys next Friday.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys. That's the Round Table. It's brought to you by the good folks at Grind City. The weekend's here. Go stock up. Go get any of the products at Grind City. I've been touting for a while now the Tangerine Cream Sour Gator Patrol, which is so cool. It's a sour. It's got some sweetness from tangerine. It's balanced out by a subtle hint of cream. I mean, it's a really wonderful product, but I love all their beers. And I love going down to that particular brewery right on the banks of the river, just north of downtown. You see the city lights and the bridges. Cool place. Great venue for concerts or anything else. Go check it out. It's a real taste of Memphis. It's Grind City Brewing. That'll do it for us. We'll see you Sunday at FedEx Forum, bright and early. That's a noon game. It's a Memphis State throwback game. So I hope I see you there. We'll be right back here on Monday. Have a great weekend, everybody.